You guys are absolutely incredible. Hey everybody, welcome back to yet another masterclass. In my last video, I asked you to send in some videos of your playing, of your practicing, of passages that you're working on at the moment, and you did. So I want to thank you for that. The number of videos that reached me far exceed the possibility of putting it all in one masterclass. So we're gonna spread it out over time, and I'm gonna do several classes. So if your video is not amongst the ones that are chosen today, don't worry about it because we're gonna get to them in the future. If you're watching this and you haven't sent a video yet, why not partake and send in a video? Without further ado, let me put on my professor glasses. And here is our first candidate.
Hi Johannes, thank you so much for listening. I am Constanza de Soain, I'm from Chile, I live in Germany. I played a third movement, Borgia concert, you know which place.
Constanza, thank you very much for sending in your video and for raising this question. This is definitely one of the trickiest parts of the third movement. You're already on a really good way, but I do think that the fingering that you are using is working against you rather than for you. Let me show you what I mean. You change positions on the very last 30-second note. Now, within that very short time of that 30-second note, you need to do three things. First of all, you need to play the note. Secondly, you need to change position. And thirdly, you need to change the first finger from the D string to the A string. You have to do all of these three things in this very, very short amount of time within that 30-second note. As a result, it slows you down quite significantly in your tempo. You get a big glissando. And for clarity, we definitely want to get rid of the glissando. So I think you should choose a different point in the section where to change positions. In my own fingering, I change as early as possible. Now for the so-called trill on the D string, I use the second finger. So really it is only thumb and second finger, which means that I can shift very comfortably. Another possibility to do the shift would be in the middle of the section. The advantage of this place is that you have a bit of a break and you can use that time to actually make your shift. So there's different possibilities. Choose the one that gives you the most breathing time for the shift. So we don't actually hear you shift with a glissando, but you can jump in the time that the bow is actually not playing. My second tip for you would be that you use quite a lot of bow for the upbeat and for the first of the 30-second notes. That way you get a nicer sound at the beginning of the section. And when you are more generous in the right hand, that actually helps the left hand in quite a significant way. Whenever I have a difficult passage for the left hand, I look for the help of the right hand, and somehow they can help each other out quite significantly. Constanza, thank you very much for your video. We're moving on to Lewis.
One of the things I struggle with in this passage is the really high harmonics in bar 8, the third suite of the Sonata for Solo Cello by Casado. So it's not only like an incorrect rhythm problem, but whenever I get to that part, I have a lot of trouble making the harmonics speak and speak clearly. So if you have any advice for those, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Lewis, thank you for this video. Of course, it would have been helpful if you could have made the frame of the video just a little bit bigger so that when it comes to the section where you actually play the harmonics, I could see your left and your right hand. But it doesn't matter. I do have some tips for you. First thing is very clear. We need to go very much towards the bridge with the right hand. In order to find the right spot for the harmonic to sound well, start with the bow on the bridge and then move towards the finger rather than trying to push the bow towards the bridge. I'll show you what I mean. Obviously no sound, so we're moving closer to the finger. Obviously no sound, so we're moving closer to the finger even. Ah, now I found it. So through examining the position coming from the bridge towards the finger, you will very easily find that sweet spot where you get a very clear sound, which is close to the bridge. Secondly, and I think that is really important, harmonics in that high register actually need quite a bit of contact to the string. And I established that contact not from the top, so I don't press on the string, but I actually pull the string to the side. So I don't just put the finger on top of the string, but actually through pulling it to the side, I have more contact, and we're just talking about slightly pulling it to the side. And the third thing is that you need to prepare your bow. So when you play the note on the A string, make sure that you go at least to the upper half, if not to the tip, so that for your up bow, you have a lot of bow and make the harmonics speak. And I don't know if you can see this with distance, but I'm actually crawling over the strings so that I'm not just touching them from above, but I am actually pulling them to the side. Louis, thank you very much for your video. The next video comes from Anita.
Mr. Moser, would you help me with this fingering? Thank you very much.
Anita, thank you very much for your video and for your question. Yeah, that section is my personal nemesis in this concerto because I've been playing it now for, I think, 23 years, and it remains a difficult spot for me. So whenever I unpack this concerto, this is the first spot that I practice. Now, in this time, I found a couple of things that actually help me quite well. First of all, my fingering involves a strong fourth finger, so this fingering might not be for everybody, but I do want to suggest it. It is putting the fourth finger flat for the fifth. So the fingering altogether slowly looks like this. So for the top fifth, I'm actually keeping the position of the second finger and I'm pushing the first finger upwards so that it actually becomes a fifth. And it's partly turning the hand, it is partly just pushing the finger. So it's not either or, it's actually a combined motion between the two. The thing that really helps me through this passage is the right usage of bow, because I'm changing the bowing. We start up bow, we play down bow, and then I play down bow again. So that for the beginning of the passage, I have a strong bow, and that really helps me support the fifth. Also, I get a little bit of breathing time between the E and the first fifth. Again, as I said, this fingering is not for everybody. If you want to train your fourth finger, make sure that you play the exercise of fifths that I made a couple of days ago. When you play the fifth with the fourth finger, make sure that you're not curling the finger in order to give it more strength, rather than hanging on the finger. Hanging is going to be giving you the best possible intonation. Again, as I said, not everybody has a long fourth finger, but you can train the strength, and I think everybody can actually use that fingering if you put in enough time and send the fourth finger to the gym. Anita, thank you very much for your video.
Hi Johan, I am Riley Harn. I'm in 8th grade, 14 years old, from Canton, Massachusetts, and I'm a huge fan of yours. I saw you at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, and I saw you at the Boston Symphony Orchestra, so I'm hoping that you will be able to critique me on this piece called Budapesto by Carrie Cheney.
Riley, thanks a lot for your video and thank you for showing me this piece, which I didn't know before. Sounds like a lot of fun. First of all, keep the intonation of the half steps really tight. We are in a very specific tonality. So I would try to keep the C sharp very close to the D and the B flat very close to the A string. Now I don't believe the slide should actually have the same tempo all throughout. But actually the tempo should increase exponentially as we get to the top. That way we really have this sort of uplifting feeling. It's a very cool way to emulate something that comes from folk style music. Yeah, something like that. Another thing that you should look into when you practice your glissandos is that you start your glissando really from the beginning of the string and not from... It may be more convenient to put your finger down and then start your glissando, but then you will have a break at the beginning of the glissando. So it's better to think of the finger as a landing airplane. You land on the beginning of the string and then you start again. Riley, thank you very much for your video.
Hi Johannes, thanks for all the masterclass, it's been great. I'm Samuel, and I'm gonna play the beginning of the second movement of Prokofiev's Concert Symphony.
Samuel, I really have to congratulate you for your playing. It's really very, very good. So I feel bad making comments now because you're already very advanced, but I do have two things that I want to talk about. First of all, your bowing on the C string is very good. You keep the arm relatively compact. However, when you come to the upper strings, I would like for you to engage this lower part of the arm a little bit more. For the lower string, you need a compact arm in order for the string to speak. But when you continue using that technique on the upper string, you will actually kill the sound rather than making it speak and go into the concert hall. And the second thing, which is something that I work on personally very much, is to get my fourth finger quicker and also stronger over time. You realize that in one of the passages, the fourth finger is not as quick and as responsive as the other fingers. This should be an easy fix. You just pick an exercise from Feuillard, for example. So it's a really good idea to send your fourth finger to the gym. It is our weakest finger, but with a little bit of exercise, it can be just as strong as the other fingers as well. Again, your playing of this piece is really on a good way, and I do appreciate a lot you sharing it with us. Thank you very much.
Hey, Mr. Mosier, I'm sending in the introduction of the fourth movement of Brahms F major. It's more of like a lyrical example, but I would just like some help on it. It's kind of making me pull my hair out, so thank you.
Nicholas, thank you so much for sending this really beautiful piece of music our way. And thank you for your question. I think there is sort of a universal misconception about the tempo of this finale. When you look at the time signature, it's actually alla breve, so it's in 2 and not in 4. And when you look at the tempo that he's asking for, it is allegro molto, so it doesn't get faster than that. So most of us actually play this far too slow. Subsequently, it's very hard to get a line over those 8 bars, but when you think of in bigger beats, in 2, or maybe even to think in 1, then you have one sweep. When I look at the original bowings, I do like to think that these bowings actually indicate one beat. And second beat. So then you get a very nice flow through the phrase. When I was recording this piece, my pianist and I, we tried to find a sweet spot between a good flow and still maintaining time for the details. It sounded a little bit like this. So admittedly, it could have been faster, but we thought it was a good compromise of tempo. Nicholas, nobody can really tell you how fast to play this passage. Of course, you have to feel it and you have to be the one who is in charge. But do go back to the time signature and to Allegro Molto and rethink how fast this movement can actually be. You also need to talk with your pianist because obviously she or he has much more to do than we would ever do. So it's also always a compromise between piano and cello. Next thing I want to talk about is stretching in the left hand. I see in your video that you are jumping from one position to the next. And I would actually suggest that instead of jumping, you stretch. You see how I'm taking first and second finger, and I'm trying to stretch rather than jump. I think that is really essential for getting a nice legato in your phrase. Feuillard actually has a great exercise for that. Of course, we're used to stretching only the first finger. But what if we stretch between second and third finger? You might think, I'm never going to use this, and you will when you play the Fourth Sonata by Beethoven. Yeah? That way, you have two stretches, one between first and second, and one between second and third, and that leads to a great legato. Now, some of you might say, my fingers are not big enough for stretching, and that's why I have to jump. You can probably stretch more than you think. You just have to practice it on a daily basis, and I really think it's worth getting that technique into your system and rethinking how to get from one finger to the next. That will give you the possibility of a true left-hand legato, which is often neglected and is something that we should really practice. Thank you all so much for your contributions. This was a lot of fun. If your video wasn't among the selected today, don't worry about it because we're going to do a lot more of these and I'm sure we're going to get to your video very soon. If you haven't submitted a video yet, please do, and with a little bit of luck, you're going to be in the next masterclass. Thank you so much, Constanza, Luis, Anita, Riley, Samuel, and Nicholas for your videos and for sharing your passion for cello and your curiosity. I really appreciate it very much. I'll see you very soon. Bye.